sister's a therapist and I tell jokes. We both want to help all kinds of folks.
Hello, and welcome to My Sister's a Therapist. My name is Virginia Jones. I'm a stand-up comedian of absolutely no note, and my sister's a therapist.
Hello, I'm Laura Ryan. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. And just for fun, I'm going to mix it up and tell you about all of my certifications. I am a certified Imago relationship therapist. I'm a certified EMDR therapist. I'm a certified NET therapist. And I'm a certified hypnotherapist.
That's a long list. We call her Certification Sally over here.
That's my hyper focus, is getting certifications. But my main credit, I don't know if you knew this, is sister to Laugh Smith, Virginia Jones.
I think that everyone who knows me, that's their main credit, but they don't always agree or go along with it.
It's because you have that main character energy.
Oh, God.
So, Virginia, what's our topic today?
This is a listener topic. This person wrote us an email, which anyone can do, to hello@mysistersatherapist.com.
Anyone with an internet connection and access to email. Just find a time when you do have access.
That's a shout out to all of our unhoused population listening today.
It's probably a lot.
So this letter says, "Hi, sisters. Hello.
Hello.
I'm a frequent listener and big fan. Thank you. And I have an idea you could tackle: cutting contact. I'm Gen X, and when I was younger, when you didn't want to hear from a relative anymore, you just didn't return their calls and maybe avoided them at Thanksgiving, and it was very casual. It seems like younger people now cut off family members more formally with a letter telling them why, and that they're definitely cutting off contact and don't call or come over anymore. Why is that? Is it better for the person doing the cutting? Is this a bad idea? Thanks." So this is an idea that it's definitely in the zeitgeist. The first thing that comes to mind on this topic is, before text and Facebook message and Instagram message, 1,000 ways of getting hold of a person, which makes me crazy because I'm just trying to respond to people and I don't remember where they wrote me. And I just go through my phone endlessly and I'll just give up and text them. But if you didn't actively call someone and they called you, and you could just let the machine pick it up, and you don't see them that much, especially if they're a distant relative, it was very easy to just avoid someone.
Yeah, you could go years.
Yeah. But now everyone is accessible all the time. When I get on a plane that has no texting, or I'm hospitalized or asleep, the urgency of people's messages to me, because I didn't write them right back, we're all used to being 100% in contact with everyone all the time.
We're always logged in somewhere. I remember I had a client in the past who, that was her thing. Her anxiety was around receiving messages back from a partner via text. That was her big thing. And he had a job that was really difficult. It wasn't a 9-to-5 sitting at a desk job. So he wasn't available all the time, and he got a lot of anxiety.
We've gotten used to, I won't say addicted, but we've gotten very used to having 100% access to our partners in a way that I don't think is healthy.
No.
Let the other person go do stuff. If it's an emergency, it is, but you'll find that 90% of things are not an emergency.
Well, I had this conversation with a couple just last night where I said, neither of you is a brain surgeon or a heart surgeon, right?
Or a fireman.
Right. So we don't need instant access at all times. You can just go a little bit and don't talk about stuff. We can just wait. Nothing is that urgent.
Although I did have a partner who, because he was struggling with ADHD, he would actively put his phone away for hours and hours. And I did find that aggravating.
If you'd had this great thing called a landline, like I do, I could have called him on there.
Yeah, I did get rid of my landline because you were the only person calling it.
You're the only person who calls my landline. I'm still keeping it.
There is a shift in society right now. Estrangement and no contact has become more formalized. If I text you and you don't text back, I kind of want to know why. It's very hard to just casually fade out.
I was having a conversation with someone over text just last night, and they told me I'm making salsa. And so I knew they were engaged, and they said, my partner's about to be home. But I asked a dumb question and there was no response. And I checked it this morning, still no response.
How dare they not respond to your dumb question?
Exactly. I deserve that.
Let's start with numbers. We're going to use the word estrangement sometimes in place of cutting contact. A friend of mine who was telling me he is on low contact with his mother. If it's an emergency, he'll respond. If it's a big life event, they can talk, but he's not just going to do the day-to-day chit-chat because she constantly belittles him and makes him feel small, and he's decided he doesn't like it.
It just sounds like it's not very fun. So why would I spend a lot of my time doing something that's not very fun?
Right now, 30% of Americans are currently estranged from a family member, and 40% have experienced some estrangement at some point. And that's also me and you.
Yes, we have both experienced estrangement.
For me, it's painful on both sides. I don't like being the person who's not being contacted, but I also don't like being the person who's not contacting. Even when it's for a good reason or when it's good for my mental health, it's painful.
I think also, at least for me, I have received a lot of negative feedback when I set a boundary with someone and then that ends up with no contact.
And I think that's part of what's leading to this phenomenon is people are learning or deciding that they can set boundaries. You've always known if you have a friend who's crappy to you and makes you feel bad, you just stop talking to them. But when it's a family member, we definitely have had this idea that no matter what, their blood, their kin, you have to tolerate a certain amount of BS. And I think especially with the increasing secularization of America, with religion becoming less and less important, we just don't feel compelled. It's not written anywhere that we have to continue to be friends with family members. When people feel that it's not in their best interest, they don't.
And my favorite thing since becoming a parent is realizing that just because I gave birth to you doesn't mean I have any special skills or am good at life. And I have people come in my office all the time telling me about these really difficult family members. And when it comes to parents, I just say, all your parents did was decide, well, they maybe even didn't decide. They had unprotected sex and that's it. And that doesn't make you good.
Right.
Doesn't make you smart.
People don't have children necessarily because they are financially, emotionally, physically ready. They have children because their bodies have made a child.
They have children because they, at some point during an ovulation cycle, had unprotected sex. And that's all there is to it. But I think we infuse the relationship with all this magic and spirituality and mystery and all these stories about what your dad's supposed to be like and what your mom's supposed to be like and yada, yada, yada.
What dads are supposed to do, what moms are supposed to do, what you're supposed to do for your mom.
And the kind of relationship you're supposed to have with these people.
A quote that I found about permanent estrangement, about just cutting contact, is the idea that everything can be reconciled is idealism. It's based on a myth that families really all love each other. Not every mom loves her kids. Not every mom is in an emotional place to be able to love her kids, as horrifying as that sounds.
I don't even know if it's about loving someone. I think that most parents do love their kids. I just think that a lot of parents and siblings and whatnot are mentally ill and are not good at managing relationships.
So some factors that are contributing to the situation of more people going no contact with family members: toxic relationships and recognition of toxic relationships. And this is the easiest one. My dad was abusive. My mom gaslit me for years. Then there's boundary violations. Like you said, you're setting boundaries and people in your family feel that they are entitled not to respect them because they are family. And then just generational differences in values and belief systems. A lot of families developed estranged members during the first Trump presidency.
Well, why do you think that might be?
That's one of the things that we're very lucky in our family. We don't have a Trumper because our dad is dead. I
know that he would.
I know that he would have.
He might have been RFK though. He may not have gone all the way, but I think he'd be walking that line.
Yeah. Then there's just mental health concerns. Being in contact with this person is bad for my mental health. I am protecting myself. I think one of the myths of no contact is that it's going to immediately make you happy or make your life better. I think it is a difficult choice, but ultimately, if it's healthy for you, you're going to be happier. If you do it and you don't immediately feel great, know that that's part of the package.
Again, no one is going to support you in doing it. No one is going to say, thank God you went no contact with your sister.
Great idea.
Because I remember actually, I had a period of time where I was taking a breather from you after we'd had a big conflict. And I remember Mom forced me to talk to you. It was Christmas morning and she just handed me the phone. I was like, well, I'm not really interested in talking right now, but now I'm manipulated.
And frequently that happens. Holidays, weddings, you have to talk to your sister because she's getting married. Families will try to drag you back in. And like,
somebody just had a baby. We always have to bring that one in.
And when I was estranged from our mother, I received the same from you.
Absolutely.
A lot of pressure to mend that fence.
Because it made my life really hard and complicated. right?
Right.
And also, let's be fair, I was a child for most of that.
Right. Most common estrangements, 55% of people who are estranged from a family member are estranged from their, finish it,
Mother?
father.
No, father. Okay. The Bad Dads Club is a very large
Big
one.
club, a lot of members. And dads don't always, it's not that they don't care, it's that they don't feel permitted to express emotions about being out of contact with a child.
And also, they're not responsible. I just saw a TikTok where it was a woman pretending to be, I guess, her ex-husband. And it said, to our 9-year-old son, the phone works both ways. And then she shows herself pretending to be her ex-husband out frolicking in fields and doing whatever whatever he wants. I just think we don't really make men responsible for their relationships. And I think that's part of why dads are like that. I got very close to going no contact with dad several times through my life. And I've been low contact at different times with him for sure.
I wound up being low contact with him just because I said, well, I'm not going to reach out. So I'm going to talk to him when he reaches out to me, which is almost never.
That happened to me with a friendship. I was like, she's not going to call me. So I'll just wait for her to call me. And then 5 years go by and then
He's
that
waiting.
was it.
And I will say that the amount of time that dad reaches out to me now is really very low.
Pretty rare. I think
rare.
he contacts me more regularly.
Yeah, he seems to have more of a line on you. So 21% of estrangements are with a brother, which we have experienced, are experiencing.
Yes.
15% with a sister, which we have experienced. 9.5 with a mother. So mother is actually very lowest.
Oh, wow. If you get on TikTok for 5 minutes, everyone's estranged from their mother.
The most common age to go no contact for the individual doing it is 31.
That makes sense. That's when you're kind of starting your own life.
Right. You're becoming an adult. You're stepping into your own stuff. And you say, well, I'm not a kid anymore. I don't have to deal with this if I don't want to.
And a lot of people are starting their own families. For me, that was a big aha moment when I realized, oh, I can be a decent parent. It's actually not that hard.
62% of estrangements end within 4 years. So our listener asked, what is this for? Why is it getting so formal? And I think that there's two kinds of estrangements or cutting contact. There's one, maybe the healthier one, which is I can't be in a relationship with you while you're doing blank. There's a requirement of the other person. I need you to go to therapy. I need you to get sober. You're setting a boundary and saying, I need this from you. You take some time away from the relationship and then you come back and see what's going on. If it's a relationship you're interested in saving, I think it's really good to make your requirements known, set your boundaries, because especially during the first Trump election and all the fun we had during COVID, a lot of people were cutting off Facebook friends because they had said something terrible. During Me Too, I unfriended a lot of people who were saying things like, all these girls just want attention, you know?
Woody Allen wasn't that bad.
I still think Louis C.K. is funny. Okay. I don't need to hear from you. I became aware that that's literally the worst communication. If I just am protecting myself and said, I really don't want to be in contact with this person, great. I'm not communicating anything to them. They're not going to say, oh, Virginia saw my post where I was talking about how I think Mia Farrow is a big liar, and that's why she unfriended me.
If you want to salvage the relationship, you need to let people know what happened and why there's a rupture.
The second kind of no contact is you know they're not going to change. You can't tolerate what's happening. You have no expectations for repair. You can be very free not to communicate anything at all. You say, well, toodaloo, these boots are made for walking, etc. And that one is kind of the sadder one because it just means that it's over. Whatever relationship you had or wished you had or wanted to have with this person is not happening.
There's a permanence to it, and that's hard.
But also, I want to speak a little bit to the idea of changing. When I was researching this topic, I saw a lot of terrible stories, especially with dads like mom saying, he's changed, he's different. And it takes so much to change. When I was in therapy and talking with my therapist about someone in my life who I was looking for a change out of, I said, well, they're doing this, they're doing that. And my therapist said, listen, it takes so much to get over the anger problem this person has. And it's more than taking a pill and going for a walk every once in a while. It takes a concerted, focused effort.
Getting them to change a core part of their personality.
Right. Just like you can say, Mom, I want you to stop talking to me about my body. I understand you don't like it. Message received, dude.
It needs to be a topic that is off the table for our relationship.
That's doable. But asking someone for a bigger change, like, I need you to stop abusing drugs and alcohol. I need you to stop physically abusing me. You need that no contact time because it takes a lot for people to really change that behavior. That's symptomatic. It goes deeper and they need to really get at what's causing it.
Dr. Ramani talks a
Mm.
lot about narcissistic abuse, and she talks a lot about no contact. In a recent podcast episode, she was talking about how asking a person with a personality disorder, for example,
Mhm.
to change into a different person is sort of similar to if somebody was to ask me to stop being empathetic, I really can't. That's a core part of my personality. It's something that's just in my makeup, it's in my day-to-day thinking, it's in everything that I
You were
do.
traumatized into it.
Well, yeah, of course. It's a part of me now, and it's not something that I can just cut off.
Yes. Your mom didn't become your mom because she took a class and graduated. Your mom became your mom because she was a person who had a baby. And if she's a person with a personality disorder, if she's a person with NPD, cluster B, et cetera.
Or an alcoholic or someone with a mood disorder that's untreated. There's lots of different reasons why relationships are hard.
Another thing that it contributes, I think, to estrangement is our current work job market. You used to be born in a town, you grew up in that town, you were educated in that town, you got a job in that town, you died in that town. I believe there's a play about it.
Is it called Our Town?
Sure is. The workplace is becoming more global. It's becoming more locationally fluid. People very casually say, oh, I got a great job for you in Denver, Colorado. And it's very easy for people to build lives away from their parents. That proximity isn't there. And so they can make more decisions about whether I'm going to see them or not see them.
And I also think, specifically in America, as we get further and further away from Christian values as a commonplace part of our lives, I feel like a lot of people, specifically culturally, if you think about Italians and Latinx folks, those two groups are very Catholic.
Mhm.
And those two groups also have a really tough time with boundary setting and estrangement and all the things. It's family first. And I do feel like it's a Christian value that we're losing more and more, at least in America.
And that's both good and bad. Losing family members, again, even if that family member was no good for you, it's painful. It feels lonely. It's hard. But on the other hand, you can look out more for yourself as an individual and say, I'm not obligated to maintain this relationship. If I wouldn't allow a friend to speak to me that way,
Yeah, why would I allow my uncle to speak to me this way?
Just because you're my dad's brother, you get to say whatever you want to me?
I'm currently not speaking to one of our uncles. And over Thanksgiving, I was in a nearby town, and my other uncle tried to kind of coerce me into going over to their house.
Because guess what? That was making his life hard. Got you back.
I know. I'm not saying that it's easy on any front. It's very hard no matter how you slice it. He called me and he said, well, we're over here. And if you guys want to stop by. And I said, dude, I told you I'm not seeing him. I don't like him. He's really mean. And he says terrible things about my sister.
And he calls me and screams to me over the phone when I'm having a hard enough time.
He screamed at my brother and said awful things. No, thank you. He has anger management problems that I'm not interested in engaging with.
Another interesting quote I picked up on the internet has to do with how to go no contact well. And I think it is good, even though it is challenging, to set your boundaries, write a letter. You don't have to have a conversation, but say, hey, because you drove my car into a lake, gave my toddler alcohol, I'm not going to continue with this relationship with you. And then if there is something that you're asking for, set that out. Don't just let people guess, because what they're going to guess is you're an a-hole.
I don't know. I just hate ghosting. I hate it on every level. I think it's really immature. And I understand sometimes it's necessary, especially if you're in a DV situation, but there's a lot of better ways to go about communicating.
People ghost because it's easy.
It is and it isn't, though. It's easy in that you don't have to have a direct conflict with someone, but it's hard because then there's just this thing hanging.
Yeah, it's easy because I don't have to have a hard conversation. I don't have to set any kind of boundaries for myself. I just go and let them figure it out, and they're not going to figure it out.
Going back to the empathy thing, I have empathy for other people. So I don't feel comfortable just ghosting somebody because I know how bad it feels when you've been left hanging like that.
In an article called Going No Contact with Parents, How to Be Estranged.
In 5 easy steps.
This is an interesting quote. I encourage anyone considering cutting off a relationship or going no contact with parents to engage in the process with extravagant kindness.
Tell me more.
You are doing something for yourself. You're doing something that's going to benefit yourself. You can extend a little bit further and try to be extremely clear, gentle, as hard as it is to imagine that. Be gentle with this relationship and say, hey, I'm doing this for me. These are the things that I need. I want you to do well. I don't wish you ill, but this is what I need to do.
I think focusing it on myself is a good idea, not pointing the finger at the person and saying, you're a bad person, but saying, these behaviors are hurting me. This is making my life really hard and it's not fun.
When I was getting a divorce, friends will say things like, oh, you should get him for everything he has, or normal things, set his car on fire,
Slash his tires, set his house on fire, steal all of his recycling bins.
And I said to myself and others, I'm never going to regret being generous and generous of spirit in this time. I can see how being petty and an a-hole, and maybe I have been, even though it feels good to do in the time, I'm not going to be proud of it later on.
And I think you and I saw how having a really nasty divorce can just sort of destroy a lot of things. I remember mom coming to the house and stealing the popcorn maker and
Right.
dad taking her to court about the popcorn maker. It's not the move. It's pointless. What's your goal? You want to make an enemy now?
And it's a tremendous waste of energy on both sides. Those are all the good reasons for someone doing the cutting of contact, the estrangement, good ways to go about it, good things to think about it. Now, if you want to find out what the parents of people who have cut contact say, you can go to Facebook, but also you can go to Quora. That's where boomers live.
That's where boomers complain about estrangement with their kids.
I found one question: why do people cut off relationships with loving parents? And there were two kinds of answers, and some of them were hilarious. Like you said before, your parent can love you, but if the way that they express that love is abusive, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the feeling is. We've talked about this before. Love is an action. Love is a behavior. It's not saying the words, I love you. It doesn't matter what you feel in your heart. If you feel that way in your heart, but the way you express it is by controlling someone, abusing them.
I just literally today sent you a TikTok where this woman is saying, if the person in your life, whoever they are, whatever their role is, if they could not be, if they were mute,
Like Ariel the mermaid.
yes, if they got aerialed, would you know that they loved you? My head was exploding with that. Because when I think about difficult people that I've known, if they couldn't speak and tell me, oh, but I really do love you, if I just look at their behavior, that's all the information I need.
When people say, oh, my partner's done this, my partner's done that, but they love me, what does that mean? They
The
said they
user's
love
name
you?
is Anita because I want to give her credit. Anita said it.
Thank you, Anita.
And I think a lot of times because we grow up in dysfunctional families, love does mean you're tracking me on my phone. Love does mean you call me 15 times a day and say terrible things to me, right?
About half of the responses were like, well, what does loving mean? Is this person narcissistic? Is this person toxic in some way? Just sitting around your house and having a feeling doesn't mean you're having a good relationship with the person you're having the feeling about.
I look at relationships like there's an exchange. There's an energy exchange here. There's an information exchange here. And if the person is either giving me very bad energy or no energy, then I'm not going to really be bending over backwards.
Just like no bad vibes, right?
And that's the way an idiot would say it.
Some of my favorite responses from the parents on this thread were, well, kids today aren't loyal the way they used to be.
I think that's true. And thank God.
Right. Because the idea that I made you, therefore you have to put up with whatever I want to dish out.
I smushed my genitals with another person and gave birth to you. So you have to just deal with me. My favorite thing is I clothed you and I fed you and I bathed you. Oh, okay.
The
So
legal requirements.
you decided to have a kid and you met their basic needs. Nobody asked you to have a kid. You chose to do it. If you couldn't do those basic things, probably shouldn't have had a kid.
I kept a roof over your head until you were 18. Oh, that's because the law tells you you have to.
Right. It's legally required because if it weren't, I think I would be living different.
You'd have a much quieter house.
I would-
Wink, wink.
Nudge, nudge. Say no more.
So other responses were like, well, as a parent, you have to be tough, and kids don't always like that.
True.
You have to set boundaries. You have to set an example for your kid to follow. You are going to have to give them negative feedback sometimes, but just the idea that like you just have to be tough.
When I say true, I mean, the kids aren't really going to like that. It's
Oh,
true.
right.
If you feel like you have to be tough, and I guess that's my thought. We're all allowed to approach our relationships in whatever way we want,
Yeah.
but we just have to deal with the consequences of our choices.
This is the ununderstood part of Carpe Diem. You can do anything you want, but there will be consequences to some of the things you do. Other people are going to do what they want.
I've been watching the show Chaos with Jeff Goldblum, my boyfriend. He's Zeus, so he's this vengeful god, and he's making decisions left and right, and they are creating consequences for him and his family. He's allowed to do that. He is a god, but also he has to deal with the backdraft of the decisions he makes.
Yeah. When I was a kid, I was fascinated with Greek mythology, and I still am. People don't want you to talk to them about it at parties that much.
No.
One thing that I like about it is that the gods are human. Zeus is lustful, wrathful, jealous. The Christian God, well, the New Testament God, Old Testament God, kind of an abusive dad, a lot of smiting. New Testament dad, kinder, gentler, but he's perfect, right? He's omnipotent, above humanity.
He has unending patience and kindness.
Yeah. Greek gods have these traits that you recognize in other people. They just don't happen to be gods. Hera is incredibly insecure, even though she's the queen of the gods.
She's
Aphrodite,
also sleeping with her brother, which is great.
well, the dating pool for gods is small.
Pretty limited.
Aphrodite, the goddess of love, the most beautiful person in the world, kind of a vain a-hole. If you're not always telling her how great she is, she gets real mad.
I can make any decision I want. I could right now decide to go into the Target parking lot and blow off 800 fireworks. And it might be really cool, but there's probably going to be a consequence.
Going to be a consequence. So one of the other responders said, well, a lot of times the kids are cutting contact because they're addicts and then the parents stop giving them money and then the parent's the bad guy. That's a big story.
I mean, I'm sure that's happened and it's,
Oh, sure.
it's absolutely
For sure
true.
that's occurred.
Yeah, for sure.
So this is my favorite. A responder named Marl Reds, which I thought, what a strange name.
Is that your name?
They're
Because he's
calling
got
themselves- They're calling themselves Marlboro Reds.
Is
Okay?
that our dad?
Is it our dad?
Did that happen before 2014?
Their quote is because the parents never corrected the child when they were younger, like the Bible says, spare the rod, spoil the child. FYI, this is just a little tangent for me. The concept is from the Bible that children need correction, and I would love for you to speak on that in a second. The phrase spare the rod and spoil the child is from a 17th century poem called Hudibras. What medicine can cure the fits of lovers when they lose their wits? Love is a boy by poets styled, then spare the rod and spoil the child. It's a bad poem, but people quote it as a Bible quote because people don't read the Bible.
I have read the Bible, but I didn't remember that not being in it. It refers to a love affair wherein a person speaking is not discussing disciplining a child at all. So it doesn't even relate
Doesn't
to
have
that.
anything to do with, yeah, they're talking about the madness of love. It doesn't have anything to do with anything, but it rhymes and people got very into it.
So what I understand about spare the rod, it's referring to sheep herding.
Okay.
And so when you are leading your sheep, you have to use the rod. You
Mm.
gently guide a sheep to a certain area. You're not beating a sheep.
Mhm.
You're moving them gently with the head of your rod
Hmm.
to guide them in a direction. So there's actually nothing violent about it at all.
Now, there is a quote from Proverbs, and the rod comes up a lot that says, he that spareth his rod hateth his son, but he that loveth him chasteneth him betimes.
Jay, wait, say that.
Chasteneth.
Is that a word?
It is according to the Bible. Some of my other favorite hits in this Quora thread that I really spent a lot of time.
It sounds like you were really deep diving angry boomers on Quora.
Someone named Deb said, non-belief in religion, maybe? Then you have all these homosexual things going on too.
Not only did my kids not speak to me, but now I'm doing orgies with a bunch of women.
I don't think that that's what Deb means. I think Deb's saying these kids are all queer and stuff.
You probably do have a queer kid, Deb, and you probably shame them. And that's why they don't want to talk to you now.
There can be a goal of no contact. I think it can be a healthy thing to do. It can be a healthy thing to do to protect yourself, and it can improve your relationship. If you're not getting what you need out of a relationship, you set a boundary and say, I'm going to leave you to figure this out and see if you do it. Everyone could come out better in the long run. I'll talk to you after you've made an effort, after you've spent some time. But of course, if you think the person's not going to change, why would you go back and check? If you're going to go no contact, consider formalizing it. To go back to our listener, I think that's a healthy impulse. I think just avoiding someone in hopes that they figure out what they need to change, that's the easier thing to do. I find it non-productive.
So, Virginia, what are your final thoughts on this topic?
I, for one, think the lessening of influence of Christianity in our society is a good thing. I don't believe that not having a church to go to is going to make people murder in the streets.
I also feel like not having a group tell me what kind of relationships I'm allowed to have is a good thing.
But you do have a generational conflict because you have older people who said, well, I had this child so that I would always have this relationship.
The feedback I've gotten from my parents is, well, my parent treated me terribly.
Right.
And I just took it.
My mother served me a hot bowl of S-Hit every day and I ate it up and asked for more. Well, great.
That's your fault.
That's your fault. And did that give you a good life? I think we can say in our tiny sample size, no. My father wasn't happy a day in his life. It was tragic.
And I think our father, in his own way, he didn't go no contact with his mother, but he definitely went low contact.
And he went no emotional contact. She didn't have any view to his inner life. She didn't have any intimacy, emotional intimacy with him.
Right. She didn't have access to him either. He was mostly ghosting, I think, most of the time.
He would occasionally show up where he was supposed to show up and do something he was supposed to do. But we always knew that he was miserable doing it. We were miserable doing it. I don't know that it was better than nothing. It might have been the same as nothing. I know it can be good for the individual, but I also think it could be good for the relationship. Laura, what are your final thoughts on this topic?
I think my thought is that there's a lot of nuance. It doesn't have to be black and white. There's a lot of gray here. And I think there's a lot of ways to go low contact. There's a lot of ways to take breaks. You don't have to bring down the hammer all the time. And I think ultimately, when I look at the times that I've done these sorts of things, it did benefit me. For nothing else, sometimes it just gave me the space to feel my feelings and have clear my mind and not be disrupted by this person. But I find in most cases, I think low contact is the better choice than no contact because no contact has so much finality to it. But I also understand there are certain people in your life, it has to be no contact. Right. I just think for me and for the people in my life, it just makes things really complicated to go all the way there. It just makes everything really hard for everyone else. Really the logistics of planning. There's a person in our life that is currently no contact with you, but I still talk to them. It makes everything really complicated for me. Everybody has their own journey, but for me, usually low contact is the better option than no contact. Virginia, if people want to find out about your comedy career, how would they go about doing that?
You can find out about me at Bidinia.com. I have a calendar on there. If you're local to Portland, I've started doing shows in Portland. If you're local to LA, you missed your chance. You had 12 years with me.
Whoops.
I want to give a shout out to some of our new listeners who have come here from shows that I've done and have received a sticker. And thank you very much. You can find me on TikTok at Bidinia. That is also my Instagram. Laura, where can people find you online?
Well, they can find me at my website, lauraryan.org. They can find me on TikTok. I am Laura Ryan. And if they want to check out the show, we have a whole website dedicated to it. It's called mysistersatherapist.com. And if you want to send us a line, that sounds old, like our listener who came up with this topic, thank you, listener, again, then you can go ahead and just email us at hello@mysistersatherapist.com. If you want to give us money to do cool things, like open your dirt bike arena.
We will open any dirt bike, monster truck, extreme sports, anything. We will talk.
Your surf competition will be there with bells on. Also, if you work for Liquid Death, I'm currently drinking a Liquid Death spring water, and it says at the bottom, murder your thirst.
It's the funniest thing in the world to me. We would love to be sponsored by Liquid Death.
That would be hilarious.
Laura would also like to be sponsored by Imperfect Food. She is a big believer in your product.
I'm a big believer, and I tell everyone I know. Guys, if you want to have a box of food that's organic but also cheap, check out Imperfect Foods or get a triple A membership. You can eat your carton every 10 minutes like I do. Also, if you want to join our women's camp that we haven't started yet, let us know. I really want to do a women's summer camp. Virginia's vaguely committed to it.
My sister, who is a great generator of ideas and is very smart, said we should have a live show of my sister therapist. And I said, that would be great. We need to have a city where more than 100 people listen a week.
Well, my thought was I just wanted to hop onto a show you were already doing. I don't want to do any promotion. I just want to go to a show you're already doing and let them watch us record the show.
Interesting. Laura, this is the part of the podcast where you sometimes read a listener review. Do you have one for us this week?
I most certainly do. This is a 5-star review from Coley McBride. Thank you for your 5-star reviews, guys. If you want to say things on Apple Podcasts that are nice about us, we would love that. I've been a fan since the beginning and recently have been binge listening. Absolutely love the chemistry and humor wound together with clinical fact and discussions. I find myself nodding and laughing multiple times, and I'm taking this pod everywhere I go. In my humble little opinion, this is a hit. Thank you. Thank you, Coley.
Thank you, Coley. That is so sweet. In closing, we want to remind everyone of the immortal words of Billy Ray Valentine, Capricorn.
We can make a baby.
Me and you. Bye-bye.
Bye.